So good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Real Estate Show with Andrew and Jamie.
Good morning. Hope you all had a good weekend.
A great weekend. It's a happy Monday. We are going to continue talking about the 6 things that agents look for in their brokerage. And today's theme, we're going to talk about reliable and consistent support from a real estate brokerage, and why we think that's important.
Yep.
And I do want to be very candid with everyone to say this is from our minds and from
Just
our
an open
experience.
discussion.
Yeah, as we think about things and the almost 40 years of real estate experience that we have together collectively. So we're looking to share, and certainly if you have any questions, please post them in the on the Facebook pages or on Facebook Live, or drop us a note, and we're happy to explore
Discuss,
anything, right? So Andrew, as a broker and an owner, in your mind, what do you see as when an agent says, "I want reliable, consistent support," what does that mean to you?
I think it goes back to being there for the agents in a general term, always being there on time, creating consistent, open communication, whether it be a text, whether it be in a certain online platform that's been built out, like our One Team platform, or whether it be you're on vacation and you're answering a question that someone's hair is on fire, something needs to be addressed. And I think being there on a consistent basis is the most, and showing them the ways to be consistent and have that communication. I also think from an agent standpoint, everybody's different, whether they're experienced, whether they're new. And so I think there's certain times where you need to handhold or walk someone through the process a little deeper, right? Or if it's just a quick high-level agent team saying, "Hey, I've got a question on this. What would you do? What's your 40 years of experience? What would you do?" So I think there's different levels of that, but I think just being reliable and showing up on time, and that's for meetings, and having consistency with programs that you
Well, we do laugh about whether it's a sales meeting or training, and this is even before COVID.
Right.
The real estate
Right.
agent 5 minutes. The 5 minutes it takes for agents, just because the real estate agents being social people, they end up talking to each other when we're meeting, and even now.
That's what makes everybody good at what they do. That's right.
They get on the Zoom meetings.
Right.
And everybody likes to chit chat, and that's part of it.
Well, on that, let me just another thing too. I also think is very important to always follow up to as a broker. So, hey, did you get that multiple offer? How did that work out? I think from a communication standpoint,
Right.
And it's always good to follow up with somebody. It shows, because we care about the agents, but just to follow up with them. And same thing for the agents. Follow up with your customer after the deal. Did you understand why we put that offer in? But from a broker standpoint, not just say, "Hey, this is what I would do, this is my suggestion, move on," but follow up, see how it went, see if they learned.
We talk about that being a sales technique,
Right.
follow up, but it's also a customer service technique.
That's right.
Turning around and saying, "Hey, I answered your question. How did things go?"
Right.
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 We talked about that contract issue. What happened?
Like a debrief.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. We bring a little military.
There you go.
Piece
Like a
into
debrief.
it.
Yep.
So to dig a little deeper in terms of consistency and being on time, when you first get in the brokerage business, how did you develop that consistency in support and communicating? What are the things that we did, or you did, in order to be available for the agents?
I think it starts with the team. It's not all, I or you or Jim can't be all in one place at one time, right? And so it's the team, it's the leadership around us that provide the support, from the trainer, operations, having that same and pushing that down from an operational standpoint.
Rather than just being monolithic and
right.
having one person.
But you can't do it all.
Right.
And so I think really just having the right team in place from support, and that just breeds the reliability to know that people are there to do it. I get, and again, like you said, there's no right way or wrong way, whether it's the AI answering the question or like Sunday, I was out running and I answered a call on a multiple offer situation, very unique situation, contract, but I answered the call, and I was happy to stop the run actually. But whether it be right or wrong, just being reliable and being on time.
So what's different about you being able to answer that call live as opposed to having a chat box like you would on Amazon or some sort of artificial intelligence? What's the difference?
Well, I think one of the things that we've done, we talked about it with our One Team platform, is we've provided multiple ways for the agents to get a hold of us. So, from a AI and a back office standpoint, we've created systems, right? Processes, for them to communicate with us, whether they need to drop a contract in our platform for us to review it, because there's not just me, because again, if I'm out running, if I'm with a customer, with another agent, then I can't answer it, but there's multiple agents and multiple brokers in our office that can answer it. So that, or, I also think, not that it's right or wrong, but what we've chosen to do as an office is we don't compete. So I think it allows
And
me.
you mean as brokers,
As
you don't
brokers,
sell,
right.
list and sell.
So I don't think, again, it's not right or wrong, it's what we've chosen to do to completely support the team. So, I wasn't out showing property all Saturday, Sunday, but I was available, I worked Saturday, I worked Sunday, right? So, but it was a different type of support and work. So I think that allows us as a team to be able to give that support and reliability
Right.
to the whole company.
Yeah,
So,
well, I know one of the things I always teach in when I'm coaching agents or we're doing training on how prospecting and growing your business, we talk about understanding how the customer likes to communicate. Right, because every customer is different depending on, demographics, depending on, where they are in their life, things like that. So, but we run into that with real estate agents too, right? Understanding how they like to communicate and be able
Right.
to deliver
How they wanna do
how
it.
they like to communicate and
Right.
whatever that may be. Some of them we'd never talk on the phone. We text them the whole time.
that's right. Or it's when our one team platform and they do one question, we respond back, and then we can see a trend of what's going on to help the greater good of the whole team. And
Yeah.
so you're right. So, and some people lean more forward into that technology, into that system. Some of them don't, which is completely fine.
So talk a little bit more about that, because that's something that's just been new, specific to ERA Davis and Lynn, but it's a national company and platform. Talk a little bit more about that and how that works, and because we talked about technology last week.
Right. And again, not to say one. So basically, our back office, our intranet, basically, allows the agents to get marketing material, how they want to get it. And that creates that reliability and resources and how to. It creates a broker support desk, which is what we're talking about from a broker standpoint, to be able to have multiple people answer one.
So how does that work? If you can
So the
talk about,
agents
that.
can download a contract, put it in, take pictures of contracts, take pictures of things, download them into the system, and it goes to 3 or 4 people in the office that are managers and brokers to respond to them in a timely manner. It's just for certain people that are within that room. So very much high technology, high, call it AI, but it's not really AI, but a platform to be able to communicate digitally as opposed to, hey, I'm gonna email this contract to you, but it's in the cloud for us to review. Or if I have a question, I can send it to Jim and say, hey, can you put your eyes on this? You've been doing this a little bit longer. It's for us to have that communication. Doesn't mean we can't still pick up the phone and say, hey, I saw, John, this is your question. Tell me a little bit more about this. But we have it archived to be able to do it. But it's also not just a text message or a phone call. But I think going back to reliability, it helps with knowing that it's going to get answered. More than one person's going to get it at a time.
So one of the neat things about One Team that I really like is that you get notified. So you designate whoever those, whether it's deal doctors or broker support folks are, and they get notified on hey, here's my situation. Either it's impacted me somewhat or it's impacted me a lot. The agent can designate, and everybody gets what's by text message or email get notified, and typically it's right the first person that can pick it up, and it's available. Go in there, answer the questions. If everybody needs to weigh in because maybe a sticky issue, and then you can actually manage, whether it's assigned, it's in process, or it's closed, and it's done. Then the agent's questions. But sometimes it comes in, it's like 911 basically. You just pick up the phone.
And that's what I had a 911 call this week on Sunday. Didn't go through the platform, but it was a 911. Got it taken care of, and we can address it at our next weekly meeting, and what happened in a very unique situation. So again, we have multiple ways for agents to communicate and know that we're responsible for their success.
Right. So I've been all the years recruiting and encouraging agents to join what brokerage working for. I get this a lot. I get a lot of, well, I can't find my broker. I can't get my broker to call me back, or I never hear from me. So how do you think what is our responsibility, I guess is the word for it, in that regard.
Yeah, and it goes back to it again. I think we've got a good system and processes in place, and we'll continue to build and improve that. I think if you get complacent, you're going to get stuck, right?
Right.
So I think we're going to continue to enhance that. But I think it goes back to it's hard to serve two masters, and we have chosen as a broker and leadership to support and not to go out there and hustle and cherry pick.
Right, by not competing.
By not competing, correct. So I think, again, I really think that's part of what what allows us to be able to do that. And again, continue to improve our processes, lean forward into new technology, lean forward into new processes. Going back to responsibility and reliability, I think once anybody, whether it be an agent to the consumer or us to our consumers, which is the agents, I think it allows us to build trust, and it builds, you served many years in the Army. I played collegiate baseball. Having that team and that trust and people around you, it doesn't happen overnight, right? So I think that's very important to build that, whether it be to your consumer, buyer, seller, or us to the agents to build that. And I think that just comes in. What would you say over the last 20 plus years in the Army? How do you relate that to what you're doing in your career? Being responsible and reliable.
Yeah, it's funny because when you join the Army, as a young kid, you're kind of a blank slate. You got a bunch of bad habits the way you grew up, good and bad habits, I should say. And so the military decides in the basic training they're going to strip it all away from you. So the whole basic training is designed to strip you down to basically your core self, and then they rebuild you in that image. But the whole premise is to learn to trust your leadership, and trust the person to the right and to your left. Now, the interesting thing about it, and your dad, Jim Lynn, says all the time, he says, know me, like me, trust me, and that still exists in the military. Even though that drill sergeant or that commander is over you, he still has to earn your trust. It's not given, how they build and earn trust. So there's two things that I've talked about in the military, and even as I've built my real estate business is, respect. You can respect the broker, you can respect the rank, but do you trust it? Do you respect it because we're designed inherently to be respectful in our society, but do you trust it? And that trust has to be earned.
I completely agree. And I think being earned, and that's a great point, is you've got to be open with your communication. It goes back to communication.
Huge.
And also has to, I think, having some level of being vulnerable and not saying that you know it all, right? Or that because there's some things I don't have the interest to, but I'm going to find them.
Right. Or
we're going to collectively do it as a team. I think that's very important to not to be not to say know it all, but you understand, just be vulnerable and say, yeah, what, I don't know the answer to that question. That's a great question. We're going to get that for the greater good, and we're going to circle up. And
you talked about communication. To you, what are some of the keys in communication, specifically with real estate professionals that we work with?
Clear, which I work on every day. Having clear communication, open communication, and being honest. We've got some agents here to say, hey, I want you to critique me. Give me, in our SIN leadership things with feed forward. Give me some feed forward. Being honest and transparent with
transparency,
how you to help that person and how they receive it should be. Martha's looking out after me, but she just helped me review a contract or do something online. Or, you know what, Jamie's right, I do need to work on how I communicate and deliver my listing presentation. Mm-hmm. So looking at it in the lens of we're trying to help as opposed to being critical. But I think giving that honest feedback is very important and communicate it the right way.
Right.
Is very important.
Well, circling back around to the military, one of the things that we learn at a young, especially young officer, is that you take an order and then you go right to what the commander's intent is. Okay, and I translate that into the world of real estate and business is understanding where the company's going.
Right.
So you're talking about being clear and transparent and understanding what the intent of the business is, and if the business's intent is to help and support and grow an agent's business, that becomes very clear. If it's not, that becomes very clear too.
That's right.
And they realize that the intent is to hire as many people as you can, or
Right.
the intent is to open as many offices as you can. The
Right,
intent is to
right.
support,
Right.
and that's communicated, right?
And,
Clearly.
and putting the right team in place from an operations, from
Right.
a training,
Right.
from a manager standpoint. And
Coming
that's-
back to reliable support.
Right,
Yeah.
and that's, and I've told our staff and team, hiring experts, I wanna make sure that they're part of they fit our culture, they fit our team.
Right.
And that's very, very, very important to us, and I think, in any company, I don't care if you're a lawn service, you're a construction company, that's very important.
Right, well, I'll tell this quick little story. I've told years about how building the right team is about getting people on the bus.
Yep.
Going back to the energy bus and Jim Collins, Good to Great, getting the right people on the bus, getting them the right seats. And once you have everybody in the right seats, you can move forward. I've gotten into whitewater rafting here rather recently,
Oh.
and I use the analogy now of a raft going down the river. There's nothing that can stop that raft from going down the river. I mean, that
Right.
water's flowing and you're
Trains
going
left
whether
the
you want to
station.
or not.
Trains
It's going, but if you don't have the right people in the right seats, if you don't have the right captain, if you don't have the right first mate, if you don't have the right second mate, if you don't have everybody rowing in unison,
Right.
you're going to be off somewhere, upside down, or in trouble.
So luckily you married the right one to save you from your last trip. Didn't
That's-
she save you? Did she pull you back in?
That's right.
Yeah, I heard she
Yeah,
saved you.
my youngest brother is a river guy on the Floyd River, and he almost flipped our boat over. My wife and son pulled me back in the boat. So
Yeah.
good team, had a
Yeah,
good team.
good
around
team,
me.
good team.
Good team, right? So.
Yeah.
So what other thoughts too? You talking about communication again. I just want to kind of close it up.
Yeah.
There's an important element to communication. I know that's important to you when you're talking with agents and as you teach agents. What is that element, in communication?
I think, again, being open, transparent, but also setting the right expectation, because I go back to, we are always as a team looking to enhance what we do, but communicating that message to the team, letting them know what's gonna happen before it happens.
Right.
There's a saying, put people on a safe island, let them know what's gonna happen before it happens. It could be from a contract standpoint, negotiation standpoint, but just communicating clearly and letting them know the expectation. And again, like you said, where's the company going? What are we gonna do? Are we gonna look to hire another person to help with, so we don't miss or wait 4 or 5 hours to answer a contract or to be there for an agent. So setting the expectations, letting the team know we continue to enhance it and to work on it, but to know it's available. We need to continue to improve our communications clearly, efficiently, and set the right expectations.
Well, and that consistent, reliable support. You talked about getting the right people, people who understand where the company's going, understand what following up and making sure that a person's, an agent or it's a staff person's issues have been resolved.
Right.
And learning from that
Right.
as you grow, putting the right technology in place, the right systems in place.
And we talk a lot about technology, and I don't, I still think this is a high-touch business. High touch from the agents to consumers and us to the consumers. I think the technology, the AI, the platforms make it, the Zooms, life more efficient, but you still gotta communicate. You still gotta get eyeball to eyeball, belly button, and communicate the way everybody wants to. But AI technology platforms speed up. I don't think you can just have, in my opinion, just a technology to answer all your questions or a computer. I think it's very high touch, as part of the culture that is important.
Well, that know me, like me, and trust me, that trust can be earned, right?
Yep.
But it has to be maintained.
That's
Because
right.
trust can be lost too.
That's right.
And
Completely.
so, well, we do all the nice shiny new toys and have things out there to
Right.
help agents, but then are you continuing to maintain their trust? Do they know that they can reach their support, whether it's operations, whether it's administrative, whether it's
Right.
marketing, whether it's technology, somebody's gonna get back to them,
Right.
somebody's gonna help them, answer their questions, and then follow up to
Yeah.
make sure that, the problem is
And,
resolved.
and on that note, and I just, before we wrap up, is I want to, speaking of the follow-up, because I know as an agent, I was very busy when I listed and sold. We communicate clearly, we communicate often, but there's sometimes agents don't go back and listen to a meeting that we had, or they were busy showing property, they were out of town. So I think it's part of our job, leadership, is to follow up, say, hey, did you hear about the new announcement we had at a meeting? And that follow-up of that communication to be clear and not just assume that they understood or they that's part of our job, I think, as leadership, to follow up. Say, hey, did you get that memo? Did
Yeah.
you get that new platform? Have you gotten with Martha to do a deep dive? That's part of our job to follow up with them, not assume that they got it.
Well, and I think that we will have the belief and that, you know, we're trying to model behaviors that we think lead to success
Right.
in business,
Right.
success in the real estate business. I know it's something that you asked about the military in the past, that modeling as a leader,
Right.
you know, those that follow or those that want to follow you are looking for, you know, somebody to emulate, and I think that's important to us on how we model that
Yep.
behavior. So.
Yep.
Well, that wraps it up
That's it.
for this. Really appreciate.
Thanks for joining.
Yep, for joining us. So we'll be back here next Monday.
Yep.
With another subject to talk about. Again, drop your questions. Anything you have a question about, or wherever you're from, whoever you're with, whatever company you're part of, we're happy to take it on. We love this business,
Yep.
and we love to just talk real estate.
Have a great week, everybody.
Take care.
Take care.